This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
There are no major spoilers in this episode outside of the Black Witch Chronicles, but there is mention of ACOTAR, ACOSF, From Blooded Ash, Heir of Fire, and Six of Crows, as well as trigger warnings surrounding physical violence, suicide, domestic abuse, racism, and trauma.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Book 3 of the Black Witch Chronicles, The Shadow Wand by Lori Forrest. And let's say right off the bat, it is heavy.
Heavy but necessary.
Just like The Handmaid's Tale.
I think, and that's what I really like about this, that it's, and we just had this discussion like right before the episode, is I really like that this is YA, but the heaviness does not, you wouldn't think that it would be YA, but there's that importance because we're all affected.
Oh yeah. And not just affected, but at the end of it, you kind of want to change the world. Like at the end of this book, you're hyped. You want to like tear down the government and start a revolution.
But it's not just the third book. After the first book, I felt that way. When there was change after the second book, I was like, no, now we really have to do it. And then you keep seeing like what's happening to the world if there is not social change and social action. And that's where we're at in this book.
So Jess, you and I have not talked about this almost at all this week.
I wonder why. We started recording and like a minute after, I was like, okay, I'm done. It's like when you have an assignment due at midnight and you're turning it in at 11:59. So that's how I've been doing my reading lately. But it's made really, really fun, initial reactions.
And really good discussions, and it's all fresh and,
Yeah.
We're not hating it. We're not hating it. So just just tell me, like, what you got?
I don't know where to start. Well, I like that we get new characters. I like that the characters are just, it's like, they're thrown in there and they're going to drive more of the plot point later on. So they're not going to be completely, well, where is this going now? Because we have the fourth book coming out later this year in the fall. So we know that those characters are going to be developed more and kind of keep moving the story forward. It's all, like, what I was really surprised at with Elloren, I never expected her to be about, especially in the beginning of the book, I never expected her to be the person who was about the bigger picture because she was led by her emotions for so long. And I know that's a regular criticism you and I have of being able to you can still be emotional and take a step back and be critical at the same time. And I think a lot of people feel like it has to be one or the other. And Elloren realizes she can be emotional, but understand it's not just about her.
Right. Even though on the surface, it kind of is just about her. I mean, that's the surface level, right? Like so Elloren is the Black Witch, but she's, a million times more powerful than her grandmother. And we find that out right away when she's wand tested in the desert and melts a horse. Whoa. Unexpected, but her kiss with Yvonne grants her immunity to fire, which is pretty fucking cool.
And it's reminded throughout the book about like, well, why can, if there would be like some kind of repercussions of some, exertion of magic, they're like, she's impervious to fire because of the wand, not the wand fasting, the wyvern mate. He's made it to her, but she's not made it to him because she's not a dragon.
Right. And very interesting. And we will get into this, but Elloren does wand fast to Lucas. We love Lucas. We love Lucas.
We love Lucas.
So, Jess, I remember very specifically when we were recording the Iron Flower, you were like, Lucas forced her. He held her hands down and forced her to wand fast. I don't know. But we find out why he did that. And whew.
And it makes sense. And and I think we had said, I don't know how I feel about him forcing her, but he made a comment. He goes, "You have no idea what I just did." And I was like, that's alluding to something. So I didn't write him off completely. I knew I wasn't sold on Yvonne, but you know what I was thinking of? Because we find out early on that I'm not going to say he's dead, because I think of our previous episodes where you're unless the head is off, you're still coming back. But this whole thing of, she currently believes that she does not have Yvonne and she's lost this one love, but you can still love again. It reminds me of Pearl Harbor, where she thinks Ben Affleck died, falls in love with Josh Hartnett, and then Ben comes back, and then they're some giant polyamorous relationship with the kid and the marriage, and I don't know. That was the whole time. I mean, we still don't know, but the whole book, I'm like, she's gonna tell Lucas she loves him, and now Yvonne's going to come back and I'm going to be pissed because I live in Team Lucas. And that's just the relationship part. That's not the depth of this book. And this is another thing that I love, that this is plot with some romance and not romance driven. And I think that's important to know.
Oh my gosh. Is it ever?
So if you're looking for spice or something,
this is not the book for you.
This is not the book.
No. If you want to watch a very, I feel realistic. I feel like Elloren is realistic, right? She's sheltered. She has this power. She, is in denial for the first few books, and then she realizes it, and then she wants to use it. This book is a lot of, I'm powerless and I want to fix that. I'm tired of being powerless. I want to take control of my life.
And not just powerless in a mental way. Well, a little bit. Not just powerless in a physical way, or with her magic, or with her actual physicality, with training and everything, just with her curiosity with the world. Very much like Poppy, where when she realizes what's going on, she goes, she wants to know more. She wants to question things. And she says that with Lucas. She goes, it's not fair that you all keep making these jokes and I'm not in on it. It's funny to you. And she's like, it's because you choose not to tell me, and you choose not to tell me because I'm a woman. I think that the patriarchal society in this book, it is uncomfortable, because there's a lot of things that are still happening. The sealing ceremony, when they're sanguine because they want to make sure she's a virgin, and check the sheets that they're bloodied. I wish I could say this is stuff of the past, but this is very, very heavily influenced in cultures today, and it's so uncomfortable. And as a woman, if you're reading this, and in my opinion, if at any point you're reading this and you're like, well, I see where they're coming from, you're part of the problem.
Absolutely.
You're part of the problem. You are part of the problem, and I don't like you.
Absolutely. Because I was talking to editor Sam about this, and I was trying to explain the plot. He goes, oh, so they're Nazis with black hair and green eyes. I was like, oh, yeah. They are.
Well, I'm glad that because we've been kind of, I don't want to say dancing around the subject, but we've kind of not, I really don't want, we've just been sensitive to the topic, because it is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, still, as it should be, and not to be glossed over. And I think it's funny especially in YA books and fantasy books, the second you kind of change the narrative or change the vision, people automatically don't make that assumption. Oh, it's different. No, it's exactly the same. Instead of blonde hair, blue eyes, it's black hair, green eyes. It's just wild to me. How do you not have a visceral response with what's going on in this world, and then not translate it to the real world to be like, oh, wait, I've kind of been in a hole my whole life, if you're not making those connections.
Well, and that's a perfect transition to start talking about some of these characters. So let's talk about somebody that we meet right away, first couple of chapters, and that is Taryn.
Taryn Stone.
Taryn Stone. I really like Taryn Stone. I think his introduction is, I'm going to say beautiful. I say it is just really something to see. Like, he's been indoctrinated in this religion. He's part of the super strict sect. He's got the white bird on black on his military uniform, and he is pumped to go out and murder Fae, right? That is his holy purpose, his holy charge. And then he gets there and sees
the Fae that has been the picture of what Fae is painted for him as he's grown up. That's what it is. He's like, these are the Fae. They're terrible people. This is what they do. Blah, blah, blah. So all he thinks is, from, like you said, being ingrained his entire life, is Fae are bad. They are the enemies. Unfailingly loyal to this system that has groomed him.
Yep. And then his first time out in the military, he is asked to murder babies, old people, teenagers,
women, children, not warriors, just completely people who cannot help themselves.
And he has a breakdown right there. And he, steps in front of Damian Bain, which is, Damian, piece of shit. He steps in front of him. He says, you can't do this. You can't do this. And he connects with one of because they're dryads, they're tree fae. So we know that they are, sort of related. The Gardnerians and the dryads share ancestry. That's why they both glow green. And he can't do it. And then, so then Taryn gets shipped back home. His parents go crazy. They try to perform an exorcism. He's
in a spiraling suicidal depression, because he's having the nightmares. He keeps seeing the images over and over again. He can't believe he was forced to do that. He can't believe this isn't what I signed up for. And it's terrible. And I just, you hurt for him, because he's reliving this trauma on a regular basis, and nobody is even, I don't want to say they're not making the connection. They don't care. They don't understand why he's so affected. And that's telling for the society that we're being exposed to.
Exactly. They can just, be completely blasé about murdering this other species, and it's disgusting. But we know that Taryn has a very lovely relationship with Sparrow, and Sparrow from previous books was the dressmaker that got in trouble, and she got shipped off to the Purin Islands, which is another kind of Handmaid's thing. In my head, it's when they go to the colonies.
Right.
The work colony. It's kind of the same horrible
That's
thing.
How I imagine it that way too, because they talk about how that island is just again, slave labor, making the clothes or just digging around for nothing. It's just, that's how I even from a visual appearance, I imagine it that dreary.
Absolutely. And then she escapes with, what's his name? Effrey. She escapes with Effrey and a sweet little white dragon. And the important part that I think when I think of that scene is she starts to see the shimmer of the barrier, right? Gardneria is literally putting up a runic border so that nobody can come in and out, and so they can keep their society pure.
They're building a wall.
They're building a wall, and they're
building a wall, and
they're deporting everybody that isn't Gardnerian, at the end of the year or whatever.
Huh.
Yeah, shocking. Wow.
Wow, I've never heard of this in politics ever. This exists?
Yeah, crazy. So we know then that Taryn gets demoted and stripped of rank, and he ends up with Lucas. And everyone's like, oh, you're going to Lucas Gray. He's going to beat the shit out of you. He doesn't tolerate any of this. And of course, we know
he'll whip you into shape. And we know on the backside, we're like, oh, this is the safest place he could go to right now.
Yes.
But he has this exterior, perception that he needs to keep up for other people to keep that.
Yeah, and Taran isn't just like a fuck all mage, right? He's a level 5. He's top of the top. He's powerful. So he and Lucas together are, a force to be reckoned with.
And Lucas even acknowledges, like, there's 4 elemental lines of these. You have earth, wind, fire, wind. Yeah, earth, wind, fire, water.
And light.
Oh, light. Mm-hmm. But Taran has the 2 that is basically not Lucas's forte. And he's like, we are a formidable force if we come together.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. Oh my gosh. Sparrow, of course, again, there's no fucking fan art, really. There's just a few scattered images, and I want to see beautiful Sparrow with her purple skin and violet hair, and
there's like even the skin. Like, I want to see the shimmering emerald skin and the shimmering lavender skin and the blue of tyranny, as she's like part of her being back with her water fae. I want to see it all, and even just like Elloren's dresses that her aunt creates. I think we talked about this, and we'll put it in the show notes. There's an artist who did this beautiful rendition of Nesta's Court of Nightmares dress, and she's like holding the silver flame, and it's just, if you see some of the videos, like there's shimmer in the art, and I just imagine if she did one, let alone like all of her Yule ball gown dresses, like how I can see it on paper. I just am not artistic.
Well, Elloren's dress, something that I found really similar to Poppy for Blood and Ash, is when Hawk teases Poppy about wearing better shoes. And then when Elloren is in that ruby dress, she is very smart and realizes that when she's being attacked by Fallon, that Fallon can't run in the shoes that she's wearing. So Elloren kicks off her shoes and, gives chase pretty much as fair,
terrifying. That whole, like, I don't know how you envisioned it. I just imagine like dark oak, like dark wood everywhere, and like not tunnels, but like narrow hallways, like this giant palace, because it is the council meeting ball. Like, it's very glamorous, but very old. I just terrifying. Fallon is chasing after her, because we know by this book that Elloren is married to Lucas. Fallon had a thing for Lucas, still has a thing for Lucas. And again, once again, in the patriarchal society, this patriarchal society, if the husband were to die, Elloren could never remarry. However, if Elloren dies, Lucas can remarry.
Lucas is free. Yes.
And Fallon knows this. So she's basically has a mission, is out to kill Elloren. And and her brothers are involved. And let's keep in mind, one of her brothers, Damien, was supposed to be wand-fasted to Elloren, and now he's wand-fasted to her friend Aislynn, who was in love with a lupine. And Damien is also the commander who told
Taran.
Taran, thank you. I was gonna to kill the Dryad. So like, the Banes are not kind people. They are evil. Yes. They are sadists. They are very much, what they kind of remind me of Karen in Throne of Glass. Karen, like just
Karen.
that.
Yeah. Karen.
Especially with some of the things that Damien would say, when he corners Elloren before his sister, he's like, I'm going to punish you. And he's completely alluding to, trigger warning, sexual assault and raping Elloren. And she's like, I'm married. I'm Lucas's. You can't do that. Like, everything. She's saying all the things. And he's like, well, you need to be punished. Like, as if that was, and it was, like my heart's racing again, just like talking about it. And that's acceptable. That's acceptable in this society of having to, quote unquote, fix her. You need to like make sure she obeys you. However however means necessary. And that's, like, and the worst part is like, people do think this, even if it's not a societal belief, like there are individuals who truly believe this is what I need to do to,
Well, and let's not forget who egged everybody on to do this. Fallon and Damien, it was Lucas's mother.
Yeah.
Lucas's mother orchestrated all of this. And she is...
I mean, you want to talk about shitty mother-in-laws.
God, I cannot imagine. Just, she's terrifying. I get angry at Aunt Vivian. I am scared of Lucas's mom. So, wow.
Well, I mean, she's not only is she super honest, which, okay, like, I don't get, because I don't have a kid, about wanting to be protective of your son and obviously not knowing the whole story that we know and not liking your daughter-in-law or son-in-law. I understand that. However, to literally set up these ploys to be like, if it were you, Fallon, I would totally give you my blessing with my son. And Sparrow, we find out, is one of Elloren's ladies in waiting as she's at the Grey Estate. And Sparrow's the one who's like, look, Lucas's mom and another E name, Evelyn. Evelyn is Lucas's mom. Evelyn and Fallon, they met up. Avoid Fallon, because if you know, you know. And and Lucas finds out that everything basically, and like almost kills Damien.
Yeah, he beats the shit out of him. He sends
and just
him...
keeps going. Absolutely. Yeah. I was like, go, Lucas. Yes. And then when he stops and then he keeps going again, I was like, can someone do this for me? That's so sexy.
Well, he takes Damien out for the rest of the book. Like, Damien's done.
He's incapacitated. Yeah. They're like, and all they said was, I think at one point they told Lucas, they're like, you're stripped of your command. But we know from book 1, he gets stripped from his command for a couple days all the time. So it doesn't even matter. He's like,
it's
okay, well.
Yeah, he's like, whatever, it's fine. Okay, so my favorite part in this book, and I say favorite, it's the sealing ceremony through their escape. That chunk, that whole chunk, because we get the horror of the ceremony, we get the horror of the sealing, and then we get the lovely honesty between Lucas and Elloren, before they consummate, and then we have the horror of the breakfast the morning after, and then the escape, and then the attack. And the attack is something, again, I've said it before, that would, if done right, look stunning on screen.
I would love this book series as a TV series. You know how sometimes you could read books and you're like, okay, that could be a movie. We could cut a lot of stuff out. This, I feel like every single part is like, it's an integral part of the story building of it. Like each book right now could totally be a series. I know we always say like lean towards HBO, but I think Netflix could do this. I mean, if you could do Shadow and Bone, this would blow Shadow and Bone out. Like, I'm almost frustrated that we have Shadow and Bone into
you have
a
something
Netflix
like this.
It's good. And knowing, and it's, how certain things you see and you're like, you're not sure how it would play well with the audience just because of, I don't want to say timeliness, but how comfortable people are about watching things like being called out on their shit. And I feel like because we have Handmaid's Tale, that's kind of helped us be like, look, if you like Handmaid's Tale, it's Handmaid's Tale with magic.
Yeah. Because it more or less is, there's a whole magic system, and there's different races, and oh god, there's just so much. Let's talk about the ceremony.
The sealing ceremony?
The sealing ceremony that they have to do. Elloren finally gets to wear a color that isn't black, right? She's in dark green. She's got makeup on. She's got red lips. She's got kohl on her eyes. And Lucas, is kind of the same thing. And
he's in like a green tux or something, like a green suit.
In front of the entire like mage council, all the government officials, right? They're all there because this is a big deal. This is the Black Witch bloodline and the Gray bloodline, coming together, whatever. They have to go through, and Lucas does like air and fire. And he does all the elements, and then they bring out a little tree. And Elloren, during this process, her magic is, we know
by this point she's in tune with I don't want to say woodland creatures, but trees, wood, trees. Like various woods and plants, not so much plants, but trees, like the wood. Yeah.
And Vogel is there, and he's using his shadow wand, and he does something to Elloren and Lucas and their power. He kind of like sparks something, and it's part of the ceremony. At this point, it's just part of the ceremony. It's not this thing that he went out of his way for. Right, because he is a zealot and he follows the Book of the Ancients to the letter. So there's rules there, and he follows them, and the tree that he brings out, though, is kind of like a test to Elloren. So he knows that tree there's like a dryad spirit inside of that tree. And he knows that Elloren knows. And when Lucas kills the tree and sets it on fire, Vogel's watching Elloren to see if she does anything. Like, okay, is this it?
He's trying to like test his like suspicion, because he's already suspicious of like, how is she the Black Witch? How is she like related to the Black Witch? But she hasn't used any power. We haven't seen anything. We haven't seen anything, but he's also like, I feel something there, and right now there's like this, they're trying to just write it off of, well, of course there's something there. She comes from the Black Witch. So maybe it just skipped Elloren and will go to their kin, when they have kids.
Right. Oh God, just disgusting. So then after this ceremony, Elloren has to deal with, as you mentioned earlier, all of the jokes, all of the bloody the sheets jokes. And Elloren, of course, as a woman in the society, has no idea about sex. Her aunt is supposed to tell her, and her aunt says, basically, I hope he beats you bloody. Like, hot damn.
Yeah, she's like, this is the part that I'm supposed to tell you, like what your wedding night's supposed to be like. And goes, I want you to be beaten. I want you to be terrified. I hope that you have no idea what's coming. And also like terrifying, because she really doesn't know what it entails. I mean, when she is, doing her little makeout sessions with Lucas or Yvonne, she's just like, her hormones are kind of leading everything. So poor girl to just be completely blinded about that.
But then we get the really great scene with Lucas in the bedroom. And, right away we find out that Lucas not only is a rebel, but like he's deep in the rebellion. He is mixing all sorts of different runic systems, which
how cool was, I loved like
I want to see mix.
It. Yeah. Because they're teasing about it, but you're not supposed to cross over your magic with other, quote unquote species, and everything's like Gardnerian with Rune and Gardnerian with like Vutrin, and like he's like they're making their own magic to just be that much stronger. And I love, because that'll tie in later in the book too. I want to see it. I want to see that.
And of course the runes all glow certain colors, and the different runes are, some are purple, some are blue. It's just fantastic. And then, of course, because Lucas and Elloren cannot lie to each other, it's all out on the table there. And it's like, yes, communication. Yes. I like the trope of they cannot lie to each other. It's one you don't see very often.
I was going to say, I didn't know it was a trope, but I really like it. And you know what I really like about it? Because sometimes Elloren tries to be, it reminds me of in Elfheim, where Jude she knows she can lie, or Carden will say like he cannot lie. So they kind of start evading some truths or omitting truths. Or like with Vivi, she's like, yeah, I said we had to take a ferry, like different type of ferry. But I really like that even though they can't, even if they try to dance around it, because they're so connected, they're like, what else? What else? What, and I really like that. And she just kind of gives into it too. I really do like that. She's like, you know what? I have to be honest because there is going to be no movement in moving forward and having to defend myself to the people I care about if I don't trust one person.
And it's not just trust, right? She lays everything out, and he does too. And not just like who she is and what she's doing and, who her friends are, but how she feels, which is great. Lucas, I'm nervous. Lucas, I'm scared. I don't know what to expect. No one told me. I'm angry. It's like her feminism kind of rises to the surface. It's like, yes, Elloren, tell him.
Because he created that. He created that space where she finally felt comfortable to say, I don't know these things. It's not fair. It's not right. I have questions. Just everything about their vulnerability with each other. And you see it every time. They're, I don't want to say that they're being intimate. But in those moments where it is just them and they can just kind of drown the world out for even 5 minutes, like, you think it helps them in the relationship, not just not just the relationship with themselves, but like relationships that they have to work outside of them, like outside of like what they have going on too.
Absolutely. And Lucas, I think, is trying really hard to put Elloren at ease, right? Because Elloren asks for spirits. She wants to get wasted, right? She's like, I'm so nervous, I want to get wasted. And Lucas doesn't do that. He's like, I'm going to get you some wine, but it's relaxing wine. You're not going to get drunk. I don't want that for you. And you really don't want that either.
Right.
So he gives her some tree liquor to calm her down and just relax her. And of course, she loves that. And he has the special oil in case, which I thought was really sweet.
I thought it was sweet.
and then of course, Jess, your favorite trope.
Where he was like, it's not my favorite. I mean, I just love any trope, but when he's like, I want to taste the wine off your lips.
Oh, that's not what I was talking about, but yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, wait, the one bed trope?
No, not the one bed trope, because they're married.
They're married. Wait, no, I don't know, because I really do love the kiss. I was like, can somebody do that to me?
Well, Elloren doesn't, or like the Chandra route.
Oh, yeah. But what I initially thought was that he was taking it. And then I later realized that she's the one who's been taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that actually made more, like, once I kept reading. So the Chandra root is like the contraceptive in this world. But I really thought he was taking it the whole time. And I was like, yeah, men take the birth control. But then as I realized she's been taking it, and I go, well, that makes more sense because there's no way Gardenarians could be shooting blanks and they would still be like, oh, the woman's infertile.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like he provides it, right? And he travels with it when they have to flee. He has like a little piece of it. And also something that I found really refreshing is that towards the end of the book, they're out. Right? They don't have any more Chandra root. And he says like, no.
If I had it right now, we'd be like all up in it.
He's like, I'd take you against this wall if we had it, but we don't. And now is not the time, right? Like for like a pregnancy.
He literally is like, I'm not going to do the pull-out method with you just because I'm horny.
Right. And we talk about our strong female characters and then the babies, and this one just like stops it dead. It's like,
I like that.
No.
You know, and I love it. I like that they're at a level where they can like he can be like playful and teasing her, and she's like, but what happens when we get to like, you know, what happens in this next step in our journey? Like she's like going back, like, you know, they were just like having like a heavy session against the rock wall or whatever it was in the woods, and she's like, but okay, like what happens when we get to this town? And he's like, we're gonna find a lot of Sanja root. And she's like, no, I'm serious. Like little things like that I think are so cute. Or even before they were going to consummate, and he's going to like she's trying to get drunk, and he's like, I'm gonna get you wine. And he's telling, and she's like, I just really need a lot of alcohol. And he's like, not with me. I was like, oh.
Because he likes powerful women, like, right? Like, that's what he said. And he said that he has never, and she's like, you know, deflowered a lot of virgins. And he's affronted. He's like, no, I haven't. I would never like fuck with the cult of virginity that is Gardneria. Just, I'm doing all of this other rebellion stuff. I'm not going to even fucking deal with that.
Right.
So, and he, you know, he sleeps with warriors and, you know, strong ass women. And one of my favorite lines that he says, he's like, to Elloren, he goes, you know, you could start by learning how to dominate me. It's like, whoa, Lucas.
This is like Dorian all over again.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And, you know, we've alluded to it. There's a mild amount of spice in this book, just the bare minimum sexy spice in this book.
There's some fade to blacks though too. Like there was one night where it wasn't to consummate. She was just like, I really want to. And then it faded to black. And then after she, you know, and then she would allude, like the next day, she would be like talking about her mind wandering to being entangled with him the night before. Or like she was exhausted because last night they really didn't get much sleep, but there wasn't like a ton of spice. Like no. It was like Crown of Midnight, maybe.
I think
a
so.
Bit more. Yeah.
And also like I didn't need it. Right? Like that isn't, it's not what the book is about. Like, yes, I'm very happy. I'm happy for them because they can't lie to each other and they do love each other at the end of this, which I love. Like Elloren says, like, I love you. And he says, I love you. And they can't lie. And it's lovely. Right.
I love that they love each other. And I love that she knows it even because of their lines. That are intertwined together. And she's like, even though he doesn't say it, I know, I feel it. And then during one of the training montages in this book, she's just like having an emotional breakdown. She's like, what do you want from me? I don't want to be this weapon. Like she just feels like she's being used right now, even though that's not what this is. She was just like having an emotional moment of weakness. And he comes out from like wherever he was, you know, throwing blasts, you know, but lasting powers at her. And he's just like, is this what you need to hear? Because I do. And you know, it's true because we can't lie to each other. Like there is no, but he goes, and because I love you, I need you to be able to protect yourself. I can't do this without you. And I need to know that wherever you go, that you're going to be able to handle it. And that's why we're doing this. And I think that's another thing that's so powerful. It's very much like Castile with Poppy. He's like, I want to protect you, but not only do I need to know that you could protect yourself, you need to believe, and you need to believe in yourself, and you need to know that you're able to do it as well. We love strong, powerful men who love their strong, powerful, significant others.
Oh, yes. God. And Lucas, okay. One of the reasons that I really like Lucas is because Lucas has never sugarcoated anything with Elloren. He has always been very direct and very like, Elloren, snap the fuck out of it, grow up. There is a bigger picture here and you have to deal with it, right? Like, and I like that. And I was thinking just myself, because nobody else has read these books. It's similar to an Aislynn Roland situation, but it's also not, right? Because when Elloren is doing her training, because she does flee, right? We'll go back to it. But Elloren and Lucas do escape Gardneria, and they are in the desert, and they are training, and there's a very long training montage. But he says, like, why did you just sit here and cower? Stand up, fight. You can fight. You're not weak. I've never like believed that you are weak. You have to do something. And but it's coming from, he loves her. He's always loved her. And it's never not, the love has never not been there on his part.
Right.
So
he's and you find out, like he said, I've loved you since the moment I saw you. Like he just knew.
But he's also very hard on her. So it's kind of like Rowan and Aislynn, but different because Rowan didn't love Aislynn. We know this. Aislynn didn't love Rowan. And Aislynn was aware of her power, right? And she was also afraid of it, kind of, in Heir of Fire. Like
And I also feel like with this, Lucas has kind of that disclaimer because he's also working with Velasca when they're doing their training montages. And, and he says, like, we're going to be hard on you. This is, and because not only because you need to be, it's time is of the essence. And you find out that every morning she's getting woken up with ice cold water. And then she finds out that that's how the warriors wake up, because you need to be able to, on a dime, even if you're uncomfortable, you're ready to go. And it's how you're reacting to certain situations. So there's also, like, even with part of the training, there's never I'm going to do this because I want to. There's a reason behind everything. And Elloren knows. It's not like she's blind to it. She knows that she's being woken up by this because of this. She knows that she'll get like a sneak attack. So she's always on her toes. And so she's not completely blind to how she's being treated. And she knows it's coming from a place of love also.
Right. And it's also this training montage happens because the trees, we find out in the beginning of this book that there's a prophecy, right? And all of the prophecies are scribed from trees, and the trees are terrified of Elloren because they remember Carnissa and her power. And the trees have, over the course of this book, tied Elloren's lines into knots so that if she goes to use her wand, it will like double back on her and she will be killed. Right?
Yeah. Like when they did, I don't know why I forgot that. I mean, it's so important because she went to go blast her power out. The trees turned it back on her. So now the power is only internalized. And that's why she was like, why did I see fire everywhere? And everybody from the outside was like, because you were on fire. And the only reason she survived is because of because she was Yvonne's dragon, like bonded. Bonded. So she had like basically dragon elemental lines within her that helped her be able to survive the fire.
Right. So Elloren doesn't, like, she has access to her magic, but she doesn't because the trees have turned against her. And she is now being trained in runic weapons. And she's very proficient, and she has like marks on her hands and stuff that, recall the blades, and she learns. And what I also like about this is there's a specific timeline, right? They're out in the desert for like over a month. They say like 40, 45 days. She's out there for a while. They give a specific time. And she says like, I'm tired. Everything hurts. My brain hurts. I'm trying to learn all of these systems. And then at the end, she attacks Lucas and Velasca in a sparring match, and she beats them, right? And everyone is like, yay, Elloren, good job. You did it. You did it. I want to go back and talk about the attack on Lucas's house.
Yeah, because the attack happened after the escape.
Yes. So Elloren and Lucas, after the horrifying breakfast where they're all in red to symbolize her like virgin blood, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And Lucas knows it's disgusting, and Elloren knows it's disgusting, and they're all on the same page there.
It's so awkward too. Like, I remember when I was younger, I would always, like, when we talk about like, especially like in a Hispanic household, I'd be like, I'm not going to have sex when I get married, like not that first night, because I don't want everybody thinking that I'm doing something. And it was just so uncomfortable. So I would let that idea. I mean, that ship has sailed. I don't have to worry about that now. But I just remember thinking, I was like, I don't want to be doing something they think I'm doing. Like, it's so awkward.
Well, and the breakfast is to prove it. They have to hold up their hands so that they can confirm the sealing marks. Both of them have to, and there's no way around it.
Could you imagine if that was at your brunch?
Oh my
God.
How
awkward.
Horrific. So Lucas and Elloren are horrified by this whole situation, but they have planned a very elaborate escape. But Vogel is kind of on to them. So Vogel sends guards with them to go. And Lucas
tries to like, are you sure? Like, that's not what the book says, or that's not what, that's not what our religion says. We have to do it by ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And Lucas, thinking on his feet, they came up with a plan in the morning. So Lucas, they're there trying to do the ash tree or whatever. They've got the guards, but they need to get away. So Lucas starts to force himself. This is all play acting. Everybody's in on it. He tries to force himself on Elloren so that the guards will turn away and kind of give them a little bit of privacy. And it works. They're like, we're going to use the prejudice against women and the societal expectations of a man and a woman against them. And they do successfully.
I do. I love that I think they're just so smart when I don't want to say calculating, but in a way it's very calculated with how the strategy that they're using. I do appreciate that. Again, it's a nice surprise. And of course, the society, just the things that he would say in that, do I need to treat you the way I treated you last night? This is what I want, and you're going to give it to me now. It angers. Lucas doesn't anger me.
The society
infuriates me.
So they do. So Lucas murders all those guards, right? Just bam, done. And they do escape. But as they're escaping, there is an enormous attack on Lucas's house from the Vutrin.
Right. Now, the Vutrin are after, I'm just saying this for whoever's listening. The Vutrin are after Elloren because they know that Elloren is the Black Witch, and they basically have a decree out that she needs to be killed.
Right. And there's also a group of assassins against her too.
Isn't the assassins like a sect of the Vutrin, or is it in addition to the Vutrin?
It's like a sect of it. So it's the military is coming after her, and also the rest of, because it's a multi-pronged attack. It's not just Lucas's house. They get the council room, and they get other places, the ports too. But the assassins also are very specifically after Elloren.
Right. Okay.
So there are explosions in Lucas's house as they're escaping, and we find out that Lucas's entire family is killed. The entire Mage Council is killed, and all of the high-ranking society members that were there, they're all dead, right? And you can see it on screen. Laurie Forrest describes it as Marcus Vogel is walking out of, and there's dust and debris everywhere, and he's got his wand, and there's shadows, and everything is kind of gray, and he's sucking the life out of everything where he walks, and he sends out a search spell to get Elloren, and Lucas dives on top of her to save it and everything, and I can see it. I can see it on screen.
Yeah. I even see. I see where their vantage point is, because in my head they're at this higher vantage point, and they're looking back, and they just see everything. They just see it in ashes, and I think that's also a good moment to just show Lucas's vulnerability. And she's like, I'm so sorry, that was your whole family, where Elloren was telling Lucas, and because she's yeah, her aunt was there, but she didn't care about her aunt. She's still looking for her brothers. And Lucas goes, do you mourn your aunt? And she goes, no. And he goes, all right then, same. I know my family was shitty. I just happened to be the non-shitty person of them.
Right. So when we're talking about politics, the entire government has been destroyed now. And
So, except for Marcus Vogel, so Lucas is even saying like, no surprise here. He appointed himself as dictator.
Yeah, there was no argument from anybody whatsoever. So now Marcus Vogel is a dictator, and he has weapons, right? He has taken the runes from the Amaz and from the Vutrin. They have glamours now. So Marcus Vogel can glamour things. And then he has the multi-eyed crow, which is so creepy. Oh my God. So it's a crow that has a pale green Marcus Vogel eye in it, and then a bunch of other eyes all around it, and it's a spy, and it can, see everything. It's very Game of Thrones with the many-eyed raven. And then he has the Scorpios that are elongated. I kind of like...
I couldn't exactly... I wanted to know what you thought. How did you visualize them? Because obviously when I think of Scorpio, I think of scorpion because, but that didn't seem that fit.
I picture them as praying mantises. Yeah. Yeah, like giant multi-eyed praying mantises that with a kind of curly spiky tail. She describes them as like chittering. It's just like, oh god, it's awful. God, it's so bad. But he has and before the Mage Council is destroyed, Marcus Vogel is showing everybody like these new things that he can do. And initially they're like, you can't mix these magics. He's like, I'm not mixing them. I'm consuming them with his, shadow wand. She's just a horrific piece of shit. I hate him so much, but he's also very scary, right? Like this could happen. It's
almost happened. And it does happen.
Well, and it's the catalyst in The Handmaid's Tale, right? They blow up the fucking government. And then they establish their own. And that's, with the...
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Because these stories have happened, are happening, or can happen again.
Yes.
And I think that's terrifying. Especially as a woman, there's so much intersectional components going on in here, not just for women, for people of different races, for people from different backgrounds, for different. It's scary.
It's very scary. Oh my God, it's so scary. But again, this book just makes me want to fucking rebel and tear it all down and start over. It's just, let's talk about Tristan, because Tristan, so this book is kind of a, it's like a framework story, right? We have the prologue in the beginning, and then we have
part 1 through 5, and then there's chapters within each part.
Right. So we get Tristan, and we get Tierney, and we get Winter, and we get their own POVs, which I love. And then we get Elloren in first person.
Yeah. So, it kind of reminds me of, would it be fair to say Six of Crows? Like how whose point of view and where you are at the beginning of the chapter, because it'll tell you character name, chapter name, then.
And like month and place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Almost like that part's kind of almost like a journal entry, but it helps you be like, okay, this is what we're going on over here.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it very helpful. Yeah, so Tristan and Tierney are traveling in the east to the military, and Tierney is unglamored, right? She's gorgeous and blue, and we love that. And something that I found really interesting for Tierney is Tierney is finally accepted as a water fae, right? She, she's been glamored her whole life, and then it's gone, and she, gets a room with another water fae, and she goes for training, and she feels so welcomed, and she claims the Vo River as her own. But then the prejudice of those people alienate her, right? She's like, and they're like, no Gardnerians, they're all evil, all of them. And Tierney's like, fuck all. Wait a minute.
Because she since she was 3, she was adopted by Gardnerians, and she had like her and her brother, because her brother is a water fae, and she, felt accepted amongst Gardnerians. And now she's with her actual, quote unquote, her actual people. And she's not accepted by them because she's fighting. She's like, and I like that. And I can't remember if it was Tierney or maybe I think it was Tierney. She goes, what makes us any better than what the Gardnerians are doing if we're being so, I don't know the word that I'm looking for. Help me out.
Well, like she's saying, like, Tristan is my friend. He's a level 5 mage. He wants to fight. Why are you treating him like shit and like ostracizing him and bullying him? All he wants to do is fight. We are stronger together, and it will take all of us to take down Vogel and the Gardnerian system. And not all Gardnerians are bad. And we have to accept everybody because that's the society that we're trying to like move towards.
We're no better than them.
Right. And yeah. And Tierney's like, I never fit in anywhere. So I'm just going to go talk to the Death Fae. And I like the Death Fae.
Like the Death Fae. And they're like, don't do that. And she's like, fuck you guys. You guys lost out. You treated me like shit. Now I'm going to go with the only people who have been nice to me and my friend this entire time.
And the Death Fae likes her because Tierney, has the Kelpies, and Kelpies are kind of a death kind of magic. So, and Tierney says, I'm not the rainbows and waterfall person. I'm the deep, dark, like black bottom of the river person.
You know what part I really like that I could just visualize? Remember, because I guess every Fae has something that calls to them. And she's like, the Vo River is my Vo River. But then she finds out this other Fae, Fjorden, like, Fjorden's about the Vo River too. And she was like, nah, this is going to be my shit. And he's like, oh, you think you can fight me? And she goes, bet. And she like, all the Kelpies come up and there was just like this wall of water from the river. I loved that part. And at that point, everyone was just like, oh shit. Yeah. The river's hers. The river's hers. And then even after that, she deuced out. She was out. I love her. I really love that moment.
Oh, it's so good. And we find out that through her connection with the river, we find out that the shadow, Vogel, the shadow wand, is encroaching, that they have laid down iron spikes in the river to kill, Kelpies and other magical things that live there. And it's really fucking awful. So Tierney is really important. I'm really excited to see where she goes and like what she does, And then Tristan, sweet Tristan.
For all who's not following, Tristan is Elloren's brother, one of her brothers. He has not been Lupine. He's stayed Gardnerian.
Yes. And because Rafe is Lupine with Diana.
Because he married Diana.
Yes. But they are not in this book.
No.
So this is, which is interesting, and I'm going to bring that up later. So Tristan is in the military, and he is being very badly bullied. He's being called slurs, and they're trying to force him out, and he won't go. He's like, no, I'm here. I'm going to help, and I don't care how you treat me. And sweet gay Tristan, I hope he has a thing with the Vutrin
that he's like really into, right?
Yeah.
He's like, that is the most gorgeous man that I've ever seen. I really want that to, and it's such like I don't want to say throwaway, but he's like, I see you, and I want something to happen there, but we don't get anything more with Tristan really with this book.
No, we just get, I think it ends when Tristan is saying like, I'm gonna go find my sister, and I promise to bring her to you when I find her, it's like, okay, he's not gonna do that. It's just like setting us up, but I love it, and I like seeing Tristan's point of view, and I thought it was really nice because we don't get a lot of him. He's very timid and quiet, and they say that in the beginning. He's been like that since he was a baby.
Question with the fourth book, and not that we're wrapping up. We don't know much about it. Do we know if there's going to be, I mean, we can assume like Tristan and Rafe are going, do we know if Elloren's going to appear, or is it going to be like a Tower of Dawn situation where we don't know, right? Nobody really talks about this book, this series.
Well, shit, let me look real fast then. Okay, so it is the Demon Tide. It's out in September. The cover is purple and with the moon. It's very pretty. So, it says, newly exposed as the Black Witch of Prophecy, Elloren Gardner Grey is on the run, not knowing if she'll find friends or foes. With her fast mate, Lucas Grey, spoiler, either dead or in the hands of High Mage Marcus Vogel, Elloren knows only the chance of turning the tide of the coming war is to seek allies who will last long enough to not kill her on sight. We've got, it says, in the Eastern Realm, we have Tierney and Tristan. Tristan is fighting on two fronts as the most despised and least trusted member of the Guard, and Tierney's bond with Earthia's powerful river has exposed a danger even more terrifying than the looming war.
Ooh.
Powerful magic and a deadly legacy combined for the most explosive twist yet in the Black Witch Chronicles. I mean, sold, right?
Right. And, and we haven't even talked about this yet. Elloren right now, you just read the fourth book synopsis. Elloren is not outwardly, like the Amaz did a glamour on her. So she doesn't look Gardnerian right now. She's of Elf Holland background. So she's like all in like silver and slate and elfish ears. So she does not look Gardnerian because they cannot have her looking like the Black Witch as she tries to build allies, because right now there's just a preconceived notion with all of Gardneria. And then also like everybody's after the Black Witch. So she cannot look like herself.
And you bring up a really good point that was kind of a throwaway line, and I want to see if you caught it. So when they are putting the chains on Elloren to give her this glamour, right? They're like, how did this happen? Like, how did you get this glamour? And it's like, we removed it from somebody who was glamored. He was glamored as a Celt. We find out that is Aislyn's baby daddy. And he is like a prince or something. He's like a high.
I forgot that he's not a Celt, but everybody thought. I remember that from the second book, that you find out that he's a glamored fae or a prince, like a fae prince or a prince, elf prince. I can't remember.
Right. So yeah. So it's just really interesting, kind of how everything connects. So
before I forget, I'm sorry. When I'm thinking of her being glamored, and how she goes through that portal, and Lucas tried to even go with her, even though we know only one person could go through because that was mentioned. But she goes through it because Vogel found them and he's going through the attack. Does he see that she's been glamored, or does he see her or no?
Vogel?
Yeah. So does like Vogel know that she doesn't look Gardnerian? She looks like Elf Holland.
Yeah, I think so, because he had the eyes in the Scorpios when she was glamored,
and that's how he knew to get there, because even with her being in her glamour, she was in the glamour when her and Lucas, he was like, I would take you up against the Swaller or whatever. And that's when everything saw her. So that's why I was like, I think he knows her form right now. Yeah, I think he knows. And that's a really good point, because I was thinking about that. That is really scary for Elloren, right? Like, she can't do a lot to prove that she is who she says she is without, like, she can talk and stuff, but she can't use her magic. The last time anyone saw her, she couldn't fight. She couldn't defend herself. There's not a lot she can do. And it's said that just normal sorceresses can't remove that glamour. That glamour has to be removed by like a special, like, specific. Which also, like, if we find out that Velasca has died, if she's one of the people, her and Chinam, who's going to take it off? Like,
exactly.
Is it like, what if they're the only one?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's oof. We haven't talked about this sweet, unlucky little white dragon that has bonded himself to Elloren.
Yeah, but didn't the dragon come from Effrey?
Yes. But he wanted to kill Elloren when Elloren was in Lucas's house when the assassin dropped through the ceiling. Yeah. And then.
And that's how she found out that Effrey. Okay. So part of Effrey's little background is Effrey is male and he has certain powers, and the male version of Effrey's species is not allowed in Gardenaria. So he is forced to dress and identify as a female, I guess, to like protect himself. And that's the part where Elloren realizes, she's like, oh, Effrey's a boy. And he's like, they have to protect his identity even further. Isn't that kind of what happens? It flips though with Maisie Williams' character in season 1. Doesn't she like cut all her hair in Game of Thrones, and she can't like be a Stark, so she creates this whole other thing to survive.
Yeah, it's very, very similar. Very similar.
The only thing I remember from Game of Thrones.
Very similar. And Effrey is he's a geomancer, and so he can control like earth and stuff. And that is part of like their royal line, which is like a big deal. And so and he's with the white dragon, which is, unlucky in certain parts of the world, but very lucky in I think Amaz, because with the dragon goddess.
Right.
And the dragon wants to kill Elloren, but he senses the wyvern fire from Yvonne in her and binds himself to her, and they will fight together. And I thought that was really very, very, very lovely. Very sweet. So, Jez, earlier in the week, I told you that I had finished this book and I had forgotten a giant plot point. And when I read it again, I was like, holy shit. Oh, it's so good. And that plot point is all about Winter.
We like Winter. And reminder, Winter was Elloren's roommate in college, one of her roommates, who was also part Fae, part Icaral, or Fae, elfish? Elf. And she has this whole very, we talked about it in the first book. She hates herself. She hates who she is. She's been conditioned to think she's just, because she's Icaral, she is just a terrible thing. She's a sin. She shouldn't exist. She has very negative thoughts. She has no self-confidence at all. And even Diana's like, no, you are a good person. You're here. This is blah, blah, blah. Now we find out that these thoughts come from a necklace that's kind of embedded into her skin, very much how, like, I imagined it the way Netflix did Shadow and Bone Alina's stag necklace. Like, it's in her collarbone. And Winter's just like, you find out that that's part of the reason, most of the reason why she has all these thoughts about herself.
The entire society is mind controlled with these necklaces, and they don't realize it. Well, like the like leaders and the priestesses realize it, but the entire society as a whole,
they just think it's part of like basically like a Sweet 16 kind of present. I mean, it happens to them when they're like 12 or younger.
Yeah.
But then I thought that was such a special moment with the Amaz when is it Sage's daughter with the wings? No, because she has a son. But there's a child amongst the Amaz who is Icaral also. And the queen of the Amaz goes, hey, come here. Like, what are you? Do you need to be quiet? She asks all these questions that Winter has always like doubted herself. And it comes to just being that she's like, that's that necklace. And we need to get that off of you as soon as possible, because all those things you think about yourself are not true. And it was that moment that they realized that it was just a bigger picture. Like they didn't, like nobody realized this background until this other elf came to say, I seek,
sanctuary.
Yeah, I seek sanctuary.
Yeah. And so with the queen and the little child, like that, you're right. It's so powerful. She's like, do you need to be quiet? No. Should you be ashamed of your wings? No. It's just like,
and why? And she was like, and why is that? And she's like, because I'm strong and I'm loved and the goddess loves me. Like the goddess made me who I am. Like, I thought that was just, it was a very sweet moment. And because it was so innocent and pure.
Yeah. Ugh. And so the necklaces, like, what do the necklaces do? We kind of find out that the necklaces suppress all emotion. Desire, rebelliousness, nonconformity. It's
a way to make you quiet and complacent.
Yes. And only the strongest feelings of like rebellion or love are able to come to the surface.
And even then, it's kind of suppressed.
It's muted, yeah.
Because she finds out that her brother and her brother's friend is like Cael, Cael, and Reese. I know, it was like really RHYS, which is like really threw me off in the book. They had the collar and and she was like, oh my gosh, what does that mean for them? Like how much their emotions were still able to break through this suppression necklace basically. And it was like, that was Winter's like aha moment for her. And then it made her question her relationship with Ariel, who we know died in the second one, who loved Winter more than a sister. And she says that because Winter says like, I love you, Ariel says, I love you. And Winter goes, I love you too. And she goes, no, like in love with you. And Ariel died not knowing that that's basically, now that we know that this necklace suppressed all her emotions, like Winter was coming to terms. She's like, maybe I did love her, but I didn't know that that was an emotion that could be had. But they do know that she has a strength of braveness and fight in her because she made it to this point.
I have always kind of wondered when I read these books, like, why are the Gardnerians and the elves such strong allies? Like, it doesn't really make sense, right? You're like, the Gardnerians want purity and they don't like the Fae, but they're with the elves and they're allies.
Is it because of the hate, because of the Ickerel? And the controlling?
Yeah, I would find, like, because of the controlling, the elves are very into religion and they're very into purity and chastity and they're very strict and rigid. So they are kind of the only allies that a Gardnerian could have, right? And then you find out that all of that is because the religious order of the elves is putting all these necklaces on everybody. And then so Winter's brother and Reese are stripped of their necklaces and are shunned, right? And
that's, I forgot about, they are stripped because they basically helped their sister. They were against the elfish community, and they were like, we're not going to kill you, but you are denounced from our community.
Right. So they get pushed down into a pit, into the mines with all the I can't say it. Samogdalfar. Ooh, I said it. Samogdalfar. To all of them and into the darkness and the mines. And I could see that too. I pictured like a white, like Roman arena, and they're like kind of in the middle, and then there's magic, and, the ground opens up, and then, he's falling down, and it's described like the sky, it's very blue, and he's blinded by the sun, and then it gets like less and less as the deeper he goes. And then he lands and he feels fear for the first time since I think they put it on him when he was 11, because all these people that have been shunned have torches and are coming to them. And then it cuts to black and you're like, oh, what happened?
And we really don't see them after that. Like we haven't revisited them. So we don't know what's going on down there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Just absolutely crazy. And then of course this book ends with Elloren, being found out by Vogel, with, Chinam being killed. And then, Valaska gets thrown through the portal, but she goes skewed and she's not where Elloren ends up. And then the last thing that we see is Lucas pushing Elloren through the portal and screaming her name as Marcus Vogel's mage fire like explodes into his back, right? That's the last we see of Lucas. So Elloren assumes that he's dead. I don't think he's dead, personally. I don't think he's dead. Yeah, I don't think Marcus Vogel would kill Lucas, I think he would make him into a weapon to go get Elloren, right?
I think he'll use it, either a weapon or to lure Elloren out.
Yeah.
Like that's the blackmail.
Mm-hmm. And then Elloren is, she's in Noilands where everything is purple, and the cover of the Demontide is purple, and Elloren takes down 3 Scorpios, and she is, capable and willing and ready to fight. And then it ends with her feeling Yvonne's, call or whatever. So Yvonne, we are assuming, is alive, and that's the end of the book. I have 2 points, and my first point that I want to make is I have never really liked Yvonne. I don't like their relationship. And so Elloren kind of goes through the stages of grief in this book when she finds out that Yvonne is dead. And it's kind of, she works through it, and that's fine. But they don't really know each other.
No.
Right? Like they spent a few months together
in the kitchen
and kind of doing heroic things, and they've kissed and they slept, just platonically slept in a bed together. And she's like, he was my everything. He was my whole world. But they didn't, it's like a crush. It's like an all consuming crush.
I don't want to say that she didn't. I think she loved him. I do see the crush impact. I think it's that part of the relationship this is the first time somebody paid her any attention, really. And she didn't know that she could be, and I say that loosely because obviously she had been making out with Lucas since the beginning, but it was very fleeting. It felt like, and I was frustrated with, and I was still frustrated with her, this part of the book where Lucas has been pretty open with him wanting Elloren since the beginning. And Lucas was only good for her when she needed something. And that bothered me. And then she would be like, even at the beginning of this book, she would say, but I need help. And then she was and he was just being dismissive. Granted, we know that he was in character for something else. And he also had his guard up because every time she's coming around, it's because she needed something. And you could tell when he was, what do you want now? What is it? Let's not dance around it. And that really frustrated me. And then she would be upset that he was acting a little, with his wall up. Fuck you. What did you think was going to happen? I was really upset. I was really annoyed with her with that. But I think Yvonne, she was just she was into, it was a love of a certain depth. But I think with Lucas, it's deeper because they've also been through more and they're able to communicate. What did her and Yvonne communicate about? Just
they
that
didn't
they kind
communicate nothing until the end of the Iron Flower, where it was just all out there because she snuck up on him at the lake and saw his wings. That's the only reason.
Yeah. He wasn't going to tell her that. No. She just literally stumbled across it. Well, in a way, because she did follow him. But he wasn't going to tell her. He wasn't going to divulge that information.
Yeah. I just, and the fact that and Elloren does say kind of over, I fully gave myself over to Lucas. He and I, together. And then she says later on, I want to live with you. I want a life with you. I don't want us to be separated. And he's like, I have always wanted that.
Yeah, I really like that. And in every aspect, she's like, I don't want it to just be, and I think it was her way of, going through, to what you said, her stages of grief, because she was realizing at the beginning, she's like, well, you have me, Lucas, we're one fasted, to the growth of, I want you in every way. I don't want this. I don't want to be with you just because we're fasted. I want to be with you because I want to be with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of like a fake marriage trope, but it's not, though, because it was never fake for him.
It was never fake for him. And in a way, it wasn't completely fake for her because she did have feelings for him. She did. I mean, at one point, and that because she keeps going back and forth with, and maybe that's just some internal conflict with her because when she wasn't kissing, even they didn't even kiss. So I can't say that because it was just this because they only kissed, her and Yvonne only kissed once. So when she wasn't hanging out with Yvonne, she was definitely hanging out with Lucas, and they were doing a lot more than talking. So I don't know where I was going with that. But.
Well, I just feel like they've made it such a point to say that women are one-fasted for life, right? Sage Gaffney broke her fasting, and she has horrific scarring and like open sores on her and her hands that'll be there forever. And she says, there's like ointments and like kind of spell works to make it less, but it's still there.
And, it's the fact that you say that, because then everybody's calling, she's already fasted to, and throughout the whole book, she's already fasted to Lucas at the beginning of this book. And then everybody's going around saying like, you were in bed with a cow, you were this, you were that, blah, blah, blah. You're a whore, you're a slut. So, but then she's like, she felt like, rightfully so, she had to defend herself, and she kept holding up her hands. She's like, I didn't do anything. Like, you guys have everything wrong. Like, look at my hands, her hands as the proof. And when she would, people didn't know what to do with the truth, glaring at them in the face to be like, it's just, so they just kept doing it because they didn't know how else to react.
So I don't know. I feel like Yvonne, so obviously there's going to be some sort of like weird triangle situation, right? Like she'll be like, oh my God, in the next book, Yvonne, like, I thought you were dead. I love you. But like, I don't know.
I'm just going to be so annoyed because I know that's where this is going, and I'm not, it's there. The setup is there. I don't know if that's where it's going, but like, that's where it's going. I just love Lucas. I want that to continue. And it kind of sucks for Yvonne because that's his mate for life.
Yeah. So I could see it going a couple ways, right? Like I could see the prophecy totally coming to fruition. Like Yvonne being uncompromising and just wanting to destroy all Gardnerians, right? And Elloren being like,
oh, like backlash, like here I was, and you, like a scorned lover thing.
Yeah, and Yvonne being like, well, like you're fucking fasted to Lucas, and because he never liked Lucas, and you love Lucas, and then I could see Elloren like trying to get Lucas back, and that being in conflict with Yvonne, and then the prophecy fulfilling itself that way, like a lovers to enemies type situation.
Oh,
which I would be down for, because I am just not for some sort of love triangle.
I don't want the love triangle. I would be okay with that. It's, when relationships go volatile, and then you just like, you go from your best selves to your absolute worst selves. I wouldn't mind that. I can see that happening. And obviously, like, I see Elloren going through what her grandmother did to Yvonne's father.
Yeah.
And like, he gave her no other choice.
Yeah. And it could,
that would be interesting how that gets ironed out. I mean, I just don't want there to be a love triangle. I want Lucas. I will say it's interesting with all the diversity of the writing that Elloren is I can't say is fasted, because we know fasting is only within Gardnerians, but if she would stay within the Gardnerian culture. And I'm team Lucas. I'm just saying it from like, it's interesting. You have this whole series, and that's how like the main couple ends up.
Yeah.
Just objectively speaking.
The second point that I wanted to make, and then that'll be all of my points, is this. So there are a significant number of characters that really aren't in this book, or that are in this book and then like fuck off a little bit. So Taryn and Sparrow and Aislynn and her maid and, a few others are off on their own journey, right? They're on their own journey. And then we don't see Diana. We don't see Jared. We don't see Rafe. They're not in this book. So I was really curious to see, because I know you love Diana, if you would be like invested. And it really reminded me of Game of Thrones, because everybody shits on book 4 because their favorite characters aren't in it. They're only in book 5. It's a bridge book. But when you read book 5 in Game of Thrones and go back, you realize everything in book 4 is very important, right? You just weren't interested because your favorite characters weren't in it. Mm-hmm. And just from this conversation that we're having, I can see that you were like pumped in this book, and that wasn't the case for you.
No. I really like this book, and I think we probably addressed it in like one of the episodes, regardless if it was the first one or the second one, that it's not just about, yes, Elloren's the main character, but in a way, sometimes like some of these side characters feel like they're the main characters also. Like they all just play off of each other really well. And it's kind of like when we do stuff with the Inner Circle, where you're like, they're side characters, and then in a way they're not really side characters, because you are invested in their stories. You want to know more, whether you like them or not. I don't want to say you like, yeah, you could say that with
you can say that.
Whether you like them or not, or they're your favorite or not, you still want to know more and what's going on. And that's what I felt like. I think it's the setup that's needed. We obviously know that Diana's an alpha. That's going to play out. I mean, I think it was, I thought it was important. Like Rafe obviously is lupine at this point. So that's going to be its own story and its own arc that we're going to find out, that will play out, because it is going to be about gaining these allies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Jess, like, what do you think?
I'm invested with everything you share with me, because I'm like, yes, another one. And then I'm like, yes, another one. And the only bummer is now that whenever you get caught up on a series, then you wait. It's the waiting. But this one's not terrible, because the next one comes out this year. I'm excited. I think I don't think we touched on it really. The point that I really like, the other point to add to everything that we're saying is, let's remember that this is supposed to be YA. And this is just so, like, we've said it in previous episodes, like the importance of, imagine having this shit when we were growing up. Like, it might be heavy. It is heavy. It is necessary. And if we're feeling this way as women, like grown women, I really hope it's having the same impact with the quote unquote target audience of a YA read.
Yeah. Just the message and the execution of this series, like, we said it in our first episode for the Black Witch, like, it is a fucking gut punch, to wrap your head around this world building and the racism and the sexism and it's terrible, but there's so
the
much
classism,
everything, but there's so many lessons that you can pull from it, and just give me the fan art, please. Give me fan art. Give me something with this book. There just isn't anything, and yeah.
I really want to see more people read it. I want to see it talked about more. I don't care where. I just want to see it talked about, because it's important. It needs to be discussed.
It does. It needs to be discussed, and not in a
critical way.
Yeah. Yeah, not in a bashing way,
right,
but in a let's have a really fruitful discussion kind of way, and let's see how we can apply everything here to a world stage, because like the theme is kind of bigger picture of this whole book, and of course we're all about bigger picture.
I'm here for it. So that's really what we got going on with this episode. Thanks for listening. We're going to keep exploring. We'll go from there. You can follow us on Instagram at ACOFAE Podcast, ACOFAE, and we're both on TikTok as well, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.